Okay, I'm going to be doing a demo of the smartphone Pentest framework, which from now on I'll call SPF. I'm going to backdoor an APK file, and then I'm going to install the SPF agent onto a phone that I have control of and use that to send text messages out. I'm going to send a text message from that agent phone to the target phone with an SMS message saying, hey, here's a cool app, download my app. And then I'll show you some of what you can do with the target machine after you have your backdoored app installed. So I'm using Kali Linux. I'm using the 64-bit version on Parallels. The Android APK is 32-bit, and some modules in it require 32-bit libraries installed, and if you don't have them installed, then later when we're running through the some modules of compiling the agents, they'll fail. So you need to run these two commands to install these two sets of libraries, so that if you're on the 64-bit version of Kali, you'll be able to follow these directions. To install SPF, which is SPF was a cyber fast track grant project that from Bulb Security that they created to do some testing of smartphones and seeing how they can be manipulated, and if we can use them to pivot and get information from networks. So the whole repository for it is stored up in GitHub, and we use this get clone command to clone the repository. It takes a couple of minutes for the repository to come down, and once you run the get clone, that it'll bring it down. So I've already gone ahead and done that to save some time. Here is our smartphone penetration Pentest framework folder. We're going to go into that. So there are several installers. There is installers for Backtrack Linux, Kali Linux, Santuku Linux, Ubuntu, and also OS X. We're going to run the installer. Now I already ran the installer, but I'm running it again. It checks, and there's certain modules it needs, and if they're not installed, then it will install them. It'll also go and fetch down all the Android SDKs, or at least the base. There's some modules that we will need to actually create the agents, and to they are in the platform tools section, which is no longer included in the base SDK. So we'll have to install all those SDKs also. There's two ways to do it, which I'll show you when this gets done. I'll show you the easy method, which just takes some disk space and time, but you don't have to manually go in there and figure out which ones to download. So it should be done in a minute or so. One nice thing that this does, because it relies on a web server, and it also relies on a database, either MySQL or Postgres. MySQL is its default. So if you don't have Apache 2 and MySQL installed, you'll need to install those packages in Kali. So once it's done installing the SDKs, it'll then go and try and launch MySQL. It'll check to see if the database, which is just called framework, is there, and if not, it'll add it. It'll also start up the Apache 2 web server. Don't get worried about this error message here, because in the script, when it runs, it first tries to connect to the MySQL database's root with no password, but it then goes and correctly tries to connect as root with the password of Tor, which is the default for the MySQL installation in CalI. Okay, our next step is we will go, okay, the easy method for installing the SDKs is to run the Android app, and we'll do update SDK / no -UI. Now, normally when you run the Android command, it'll run the SDK where you can then go in and select which modules you want, and it'll download and install them. Using this command, actually, on CD. Using that command there, it'll go and it'll pull down all the SDKs that you'll need. Though it does take some time. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes depending on the connection speed, because it's downloading a lot of large files. I have already, to expedite things, already gone and done that. So after the SDKs are installed, we're going to change directory into the framework console. In here, there's a config file we need to edit. But before you do that, you should go and you should check to see what your IP address is. Here's the IP address of my CalI Linux VM. So I'm going to go into the config file. And you need to change these two lines here, the IP address, and set that to your web server, and the shell IP address, and set that. So once that's done, you can then go and launch the framework console, which is it's all written in Python, and to launch it, it's framework.py. Okay. The first step we want to do is we want to clear and create the database. Now, when we installed it, it created the database, but it didn't create any of the tables. So when we go through and create the databases, we'll get a bunch of error messages. So we'll say yes. So we got all these error messages that the table's unknown because it doesn't create the table during the install. And if we could go through and do it again, and we'll see it goes through and doesn't create any error messages. We'll also want to go down to install stuff. Now here's the other way to install the Android SDKs. You could hit 1 and walk through the thing and select which SDKs that you want. You won't need to do that other command that I showed you using Android update SDK -- no -UI, but this way you'll have to manually select which files you want. One that we will need to do is to install the Android APK tool. And we'll say yes. We'll need that for decompiling our target app. We're not going to do it in the demo, but one of the commands you can have your targeted phone run is an Nmap scan of what network it's connected to. So if you select 3 here, it'll go out and it'll download the Android version of Nmap so that you can then use that later on. To go back a menu, even though it doesn't say it, you just hit 0 and it takes you back one level of menu. So our first step is we need to set up our agent. So that is option number 4, attach framework to a mobile modem. Okay, you could search for attached modem. That's if you're using a USB device that you can send SMS messages from. But since we're using an emulator here, you could also use a real phone to do it. Select 3, because first we have to generate the app. We're going to generate just the Android app. You could also do it with NFC, and it includes some functionality for beaming. Okay, the phone number of our agent. Okay, so if we go back over to here, here's my agent virtual device. Here is my target. If you go into settings You go down to About, Phone, Status. Okay, here's the phone number, 1-555-521-5554. That is just created, it's just used for the emulator. It's used for testing when you're doing the emulator. One thing I've noticed, depending on which emulator you launch first, the first one always gets 5554, and the second one will get 5556, and it even denotes it up here in the status bars. Okay, back out. So the phone number of the agent is 1-555-521-5554. The control key for the agent. This can be any 7-character passphrase. I'm just going to use Control all uppercase, and the control path for the agent, where this is where SPF will put commands and retrieve data that's sent back by the agents. So if we go over to this other window and we look in var www, which is, that's the root of the web server. Right now it's empty except for the standard index.html that comes with Kali. So hit enter, and yes, we'll select that because that's right. Now it goes through and it's going to build the agent. This is the step that'll fail if you don't have those 2 libraries installed and you're running 64-bit, or if you don't go ahead and download all of the SDKs. Okay, so after we do that, we're back at the main menu. We have to select 4 again, and now we're going to copy the app to a web server. So that's 4. We're going to do option number 2 because we created the Android app without NFC. The hosting path. This is the path where we'll go and we'll download the agent from. So it will be off the root of the web server in the agent folder, and the file name will be agent.apk. Both of these are arbitrary and you can make them whatever you want. Be sure to include the / in front of the APK name, because when the Python script in the background, when it goes and it copies the framework Android app that we created over to the web server, it takes these 2 fields and it concatenates them. So if you forget to put in the /, it'll just dump it in the root of the web server as agent.apk. So we'll hit enter, and if we go over here, you can see it created the agent folder with the agent APK. Okay, now we can go over to our agent phone. Fire up a web browser. Type in the web address. Hit enter. Okay. It downloaded the agent APK. We're going to go into downloads, and we'll install our agent. It's fine. This is a step you could skip, but we're using the agent so that we can show how you can send SMS messages from a phone to try to trick your unsuspecting target. You could use a burner phone for this, or just your regular phone, depending on the needs while you're testing this. Okay, so we'll launch our framework Android app. Okay, we're going to put in the IP address of our server, the path, which is the folder /control, and then our key, which I'd said is Control uppercase. Now hold off on hitting attach, because what we have to actually do is, if we go back here and look, the control folder is not created yet. we have to go in and select option 4, attach framework to a mobile modem. We have to do option 2, attach a smartphone based app. So here is our phone number. The control key, which is control, and the URL, which is /control. Yes, that's correct. And now that just sits there and it waits. It has created the control directory, and if we go over here and hit attach, we'll see that attached and the screen flipped. And if we go back here, we'll see the connected message, and then it'll send us back out to the main menu again. Okay, our next step is to backdoor the agent. So to backdoor the agent, first we need an APK file, which I went out to Amazon and I downloaded the Amazon App Store APK file. It's located, I copied it over to the root directory here, so let's copy that. And now we're going to go back and we're going to do option 1, attach framework to a deployed agent or create an agent. In this case, we're creating an agent. And we're going to do 5. We're going to backdoor an Android APK. Okay, the APK we want to backdoor, put in the full path. Okay, now what this is doing, it's using, it's going to use Box Smalley. And Smalley, and what they do is they're part of the APK tool, and they're used to decompile the APK back to down to source, so that we can then append our agent. Okay, here's where we need the configuration for the agent. So I put in our agent's phone number. This is for if we're going to then later select that our target device will connect back to us, pivoting through the agent phone that we have using SMS. So if that device is on a network that doesn't allow outbound HTTP, but it still has phone signal, it can send for and receive instructions over SMS through our agent phone. Okay, the control key for the agent is control, and the web server path. So if we set it up to connect over HTTP, this is the folder on our web server that it will look to for instructions. We want this to be different from our agent's control folder, which we made /control. So this will be, we'll make this /target. You can make it whatever, just as long as it's different. This will be for the target phone to connect back to get its instructions. And it'll know what the IP address of our web server is because of the IP address that we had put in the config file before. So yes, that's correct. Okay, now it's going to go back and it's going to add our changes, and it'll have to recompile the app. Which just takes a minute. Also can make use of the master key vulnerability, which is there. We're going to go ahead and select that. If we say no, it'll use a just a debug key to sign the APK. Alright, so it created the app, and now we need to entice the target to install the app. So we're going to do, we're back at the main menu, we're going to do 6, run a social engineering or client-side attack. We're going to do a direct download agent. We're going to send the agent. This also has built-in functionality for using the Android interpreter client, but we're going to use the agent that we had just set up. The platform of our target is Android. the hosting path of our app. This is where we're just going to put the app, and since this somebody will see this when they click on the text message, you might want to make it look more legitimate. So I just going to put it in the app folder, and I'm actually going to name its file as with the original name, and remember to put in that slash so that it's in the proper directory. So if we go back here and we look here, we don't have the app directory yet. We hit enter. We're going to tell it to deliver the message from the agent to the target using SMS. The phone number. So this is the phone number for the target. So 1-555-521-5556. Hit enter. You could set a custom text. We'll just leave the default. And then if we go over here and look at our target, we'll see that the text message just came in. Okay, here's a cool app, and the IP address of the web server grabs from the config file, and then here's the additional app. You could make it say something like, here's an update for the Amazon App Store, or anything like that. So we'll click to install it, or click to download it. So it'll go and pull that off the web server. Okay, let's go back out to the home folder, go into downloads. I've noticed on 403 that I have to run it from downloads, because if I run it from the notifications, it just gives an error message every time. So we'll just launch it from here, and we'll click install. Okay, the application is installed, and we can just click open. And it's going to launch the Amazon App Store. Okay, now right now, if we go over and look in the web directory, we have agent, app, and control, but we don't have target. Target's the folder that our target, the app on our target phone checks back with. To set that up and to set up SPF so that it can communicate with that target, we will have to select option 1, attach a framework to a deployed agent, and then we'll do 1 again for attach framework to a deployed agent. The agent URL path, this is target. Agent control key is, again, this is control. Communication, this is where it would select either if we wanted to pivot through our agent phone or just HTTP. I'm just going to use HTTP to make it easier, and yes, that's correct. And then it's just going to go and sit there until the other phone, until our target phone checks in. So if we look here, it created the target, and while we're waiting, we can look to see some of the files. It uses this put function and control to send commands back and forth. Okay, it's the agent. The agent polls every minute or so. It's not constant. If it was constant, it would just kill the battery on the phone. And it's not using, SPF doesn't use notifications, because it would kind of defeat some of the purpose if you go and you register with Google to set up notifications of the app for the push and all. It'd be trackable. So we just have to wait a little bit longer. Okay, so when this happens, that means the app connected, the target app connected. And now we can go in and we can send commands to an agent. So if we select 2, here's our agent which popped up. So we hit 1. Here's what we'll do first is we will we will actually, let me show you something first. If we go in here to view information, agents 1, okay, notice there is no information shown. It just has these sections. So let's go back out to the main menu. We'll send a command to an agent, select the agent. Let's grab the installed app list. So select 14. We'll send it by HTTP. Let's send a text message. And we'll send it over to our agent phone. And we'll send this via HTTP also. And then we can, you can do other things. You can do ping sweep. That doesn't seem to work on the emulator because it comes up as Wi-Fi disconnected. And it won't do a ping sweep of the cellular network because that's what, right now, it thinks it's on a cellular network. It also, I haven't been able to get contacts to work because there's no contacts on there. And if you have, if it's a real phone, then you can do other things like take pictures. You can get the contacts, do ping sweep if it has Wi-Fi enabled, and if it has Wi-Fi enabled, you can run Nmap. You can go and it'll download the Android Nmap to the device. It'll run a scan and then it'll upload the results back. So let's go back out to the main menu. And let's do view information gathered, agents 1. Okay, hasn't returned anything yet. If we go over here and we look, okay, so notice before text.txt was 0. Text.txt receives the results of commands when they run. The information sent back is sent to that. The information only stays in that until SPF pulls it, and when SPF pulls it and pulls the information into the database, text.txt gets reset back to 0. So if we go over here and we hit enter and we look at our agent again, okay, here is all the packages that were installed because it's now pulled into the database. And if we go back here and we look in the folder again, notice text.txt is 0 because it pulled that information in and then, zeroed out the file. Okay, and now we had sent a text message from our target machine over to our agent machine, and we could see that there's a text message waiting. And there it is. Hi, this is a test message from the target phone. Okay, and if we go in and we, another thing I wanted to make note of is any messages we sent from the agent don't get stored in the agent, in the messaging app. And if we go over here, the text message that we sent from here doesn't get kept in the messaging app. So we could send text messages we could go grab contacts, we could then go through and send text messages from this targeted phone to other people's phones as this phone. So you could do kind of pivoting there to gather more information and to infect other, or not infect, but to get your malicious APK file on another phone if you're doing a pen test. So that covers everything I wanted to cover with the smartphone framework. It's continually evolving, so the demo I ran through today might be slightly different if you go at a later time and run through it. Thank you.